I've seen your name, but I haven't seen you. So it's good to see you. It's good to see all of you. So have any of you ever felt rejection? Raise your hand if you've ever felt rejection. So I believe most of us have, as human beings, have felt rejected at some time. I mean, that's just part of, I think, being a human. Rejection, and I'm talking about rejection today because a friend, a person that's one of the participants on Tennie Talks, asked me if I would talk about rejection. So, I asked y'all what you want me to talk about, and I can talk about most anything, I guess. So, rejection taken to the extreme can become like a mental illness. Rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria. Now, I'm going to be talking today more about just rejection that, most of us as human beings either feel or have felt or will feel in the future, and just talk about it and see if you can identify with anything. A lot of this rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria, the research has shown that a lot of people who suffer from ADHD have that. And what I make up about that is, people that have ADHD, sometimes they're hard to be around. They're very difficult to be around. And a lot of times people will distance themselves from people who suffer from ADHD because that energy is just so it's not contained. I mean, it's, someone who really suffers from ADHD that's not treated. I mean, the energy can be debilitating to them and people around them. So that's where they can suffer that rejection feeling from people turning their backs to them. So, but I'm talking about rejection as that most human beings can feel. And it's, rejection just comes with a tangled knot of emotion. And it's usually feelings of anger, feelings of disappointment, being let down, feelings of being sad, embarrassed, confused, hurt, or all of the above. And there's different types of rejection. There's social rejection where whole bodies of people are rejected. And when I think of that, I think of the gay community. How, I'll tell you, people who are, have a different lifestyle, they must have some really healthy self-esteem to really live in the world, because there is a lot of rejection out there. And then for the color of your skin, there's whole groups of people that are rejected because of the color of their skin, where they come from. And that comes from, I think, years of prejudice that runs in families. And another thing that can bring on that people can feel rejected, and I fall under this category, is overweight people being made fun of and being given that feeling of rejection. And I think it can start in early childhood. When I think about childhood as being a little overweight kid all of my life, I don't like to think of it. I do not like to think about those days, particularly out on the playground when they were going to choose teams for anything. Those of you that were overweight children, you probably suffered it too, because, bless our hearts, we're the last to be chosen. And I'm not putting that down. It is devastating for a child to be separated like that and not be, and be rejected. rejected by society, rejected by her peers, rejected in a love relationship. There's different forms of rejection. One thing is not getting the job you want. Having that build up about this job that you want. And you go apply and you think you're very qualified. You are qualified. But maybe there was someone that was more qualified or presented better in the interview, whatever. But when you didn't get the job, you can feel rejection. Now, I hope I've established that as human beings, we all feel rejection at some time. If you haven't, I'd like to know about it. I mean, how have you lived your life without not ever feeling rejected? And maybe that is possible. But I want to start with, right today, kids at school are being bullied. They're being teased unmercifully. And they're being picked on, they're being ridiculed. And another way that people, and I'm talking about kids right now, can be rejected is by giving the silent treatment. There'll be kids that will there'll be groups of kids that will target a certain child. And they'll either make fun of that child or they'll give them the silent treatment, And that does something, goes to the heart of that child. And it sets up those feelings of being rejected. And what that does, that can bring up really adverse feelings and consequences of loneliness, that feeling of deep-seated loneliness. And it can lead to low self-esteem. It can lead to aggression, where kids will fight back when they are, when they're rejected. They can become bullies themselves. It can lead to depression, not only in kids' lives, but our adult lives, anxiety, and then the bottom line, severe rejection. And unless a person works on it, it can lead to thoughts of suicide or acts of suicide. I mean, it can be a very dangerous feeling to have. And if you just keep it on the inside and not. So I want to tell you a few ways to maybe help that. And one of the things is those of us that are in 12-step programs, I'll tell you what, we have got a built-in program, a built-in support group that we can go to at any time and, and talk about being rejected. Or if you're really into feelings of rejection, you can go to a 12-step meeting and feel rejected. If you wasn't called on, or if, if you wasn't invited out to coffee with the rest of them. We can be rejected in a lot of different ways. But then on the flip side of that, if, a 12-step program is a good place to go to feel, a part of. And I think we all have got to come to realize that rejection is a fact of life. It is. It's just a fact of life. We've all felt rejection at some point, but severe rejection that's experienced in adult life usually stems from childhood. Don't you hate to hear that? That so much comes from our childhood. And, a good 4-step a lot of times will reveal that. And if it doesn't, good therapy can reveal that. Because what can set children up to have those feelings of rejection, the number one thing is divorce in a family. I mean, that can set up those feelings of rejection more than anything in a child. And then being abandoned. Now, children, depending on the age of the divorce, children can feel abandoned by the parent that has left. They can also, they can feel that feeling of abandonment and rejection and then begin to carry that throughout their life. And then if you've had any experience of neglect for a child is the ultimate of child abuse. I want you to think about that. Neglect, emotional neglect, physical neglect, not taking care of a child in any way can set up those chronic feelings of rejection. And so if we can recognize that rejection is a part of life in our adult life, and so it's about accepting what happened to us. You know, in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it talks about acceptance is the answer to all of our problems. When we find some person, place, or thing, some situation that is upsetting, now that's not exactly the words, that is upsetting to us, and that, and that because it sets up those feelings of rejection. And until we can accept that certain situation, person, place, or thing exactly the way it is at the moment, we're not going to find any relief. So accept what happened, accept that you didn't get the job, accept that that love object, that, that romance. I mean, that's where you can get into really, really feelings of rejection, particularly if you're young and in the dating cycle, or if you're married and your partner wants a divorce. That is the ultimate setup for rejection and letdown. And so the thing about it is to acknowledge it and acknowledge all of the feelings that go with it. And as addicts, if we don't acknowledge the pain of rejection, our brain will tell us what we can do to feel better. So that's why those of us with addictions, we have to keep our side of the sidewalk swept pretty clean, or our brain will say, well, I know how you can feel better. Just go overeat, starve yourself, go drink over it, And so as addicts, we don't get that privilege of staying in that hangdog feeling very long. I mean, that woe is me, that feeling of rejection. Now, we can feel the rejection, but we must do something about it. And one thing is to process your feelings, and work toward understanding, because it's, and what a lot of people will want to do is do payback. When we've got our feelings hurt or we feel rejected, we'll want to say to ourselves, well, I'll never invite them to another party, or I'm not going to speak to them at work, or I'm not going to do, or go to church. We get, I'm not going, it can happen at church, where people have little cliques and you feel left out of the clique. You can make the decision, well, I'm not even going to speak to them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a party and invite them. It's that payback stuff. And that doesn't work. Paybacks do not work. So what it will do is dig you in deeper and deeper of those feelings of being left out. And so process your feelings. And those of us with in 12-step programs, like I said, have a built-in way to process our feelings, is call your sponsor. Call your sponsor. And then if you have felt rejected by your sponsor, tell them. Be honest about it. Because, if we are sensitive and get our little, feelings hurt, we can feel rejected over most anything. So if your sponsor doesn't have time to talk to you or puts you off and you feel rejected, that's the person to tell them, because they will help you work through that. And so number 4 is treat yourself with compassion. Don't beat yourself up or overthink what you have done to be rejected. It's, this is about, and I want to talk about it throughout, this is about boundaries. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. When you feel rejected, what you have done, or what we do, is we take on those other people. I mean, whether they've rejected us or not, whether it was intentional or not, we took it on. We, we are the ones who feel rejected. And so, this is all about practicing healthy boundaries. And when, we have that feeling of rejection, to ask ourselves, what in this, there is a lesson to be learned. Bill W., not always, but I like to refer back to that letter that he wrote on depression when he was 16 years sober. He talked about rejection in there, and that, when we have that feeling of rejection, what Bill would say is show up for life. Show up, because our life is our classroom. Do not forget to show up to class, because when you have a feeling of rejection, there's something inside of you that is wanting you to learn about yourself. So show up for class. Look at it and see if that, that, is it a certain type of person that rejects you? Is it a certain, incident that you feel rejected over? Let that be your classroom and look at yourself. And that's where we have to take our eyes off of other people and put it on ourselves. We cannot ever, I hate to tell you folks, you're not going to change them. It's, it's an inside job. We're the ones that have to do the work if we want to feel better. So another thing is when you feel rejected, in that time, that interim time that you're feeling rejected, let yourself feel it. Feel it to the depths of your being. Just don't stay there for a long time. And then in the meantime, stay healthy. Stay healthy physically and mentally. And what that means is don't get so wrapped up in the feeling of disappointment that you quit taking care of yourself. And how you quit taking care of yourself is by those of us that have a tendency, those of us who have eating disorders, I'll say that, you have to be careful not to overeat during those times, or a lot of people will not eat if they go through a time of rejection. They'll quit eating. So under eating, overeating, stopping to exercise, and stopping doing the things that make yourself feel better. It's almost like when we feel rejected, we have to punish ourselves for it, that there's something that we've done to make them reject us. And it's really not about that. It's not about us. When someone has rejected us, or we have the feeling that, a lot of times, particularly if you've had some rejection in your childhood, we can feel rejected in our adult life by a lot of different things. And it is, a lot of times, it's not rejection. We perceive it as projection. We make up that they are rejecting us. One of the things that, and this takes setting healthy boundaries and having some healthy self-esteem. One of the things that I learned in Al-Anon, and I have practiced many years, is when something, that feeling comes over that maybe I feel rejected or I have, anyway, go to the person. Go to the person and say, this is the part I learned in Al-Anon. This is an information question only. Have I done something to hurt your feelings, or have I done something that you have, I feel rejected by you? Have I done something? Talk it out. Ask them. This is an information question only. Have you rejected me? Because it feels like you have. And if they're honest, they will tell you. They may even tell you why they've rejected you. And maybe it could be that maybe they feel like you've gossiped about them. Maybe it's something that has nothing to do with you at all whatsoever. It's something that's going on with them. But check it out with the other person, particularly people that you live close to, particularly your mates, your family members. Just say, this is an information question only, but have I done something, that we need to talk about? So, and if it keeps on, those feelings of deep rejection, it keeps on and lingers more than 2 weeks, go seek professional help, because there's more to it than just that one incident. Maybe the community, maybe out of, you can make up all sorts of things to be rejected. I'll give you just a small example. Years and years and years ago, when I first put in Shades of Hope, this is a personal example, I would notice that employees sometimes would go out to eat lunch on Friday. Well, they didn't invite me, and I got my little sensitive feelings hurt. So I was seeing a therapist, and I went to that therapist and talked about I felt rejected by my employees because they would go to lunch on Fridays, not every Friday, but a lot of Fridays, and they wouldn't invite me. And she gave me some very good information. She said, Tennie, they are your employees. And what they like to do, they go and have lunch. And what they like to do, or will do a lot of times, employees get together and they talk about work. And they will talk about their employer. You're the employer. They may talk about you. Things they like, things they don't like, mainly things they don't like, how you have irritated them. And they need that time where they can talk about you. Well, that dumbfounded me. Well, why would they talk about me? Because you're the boss. And so she really helped me with that. And she said, what I would recommend that you do, you seek someone that you feel like is your peer, invite someone to go to lunch. Leave your employees alone, because they need to get together and badmouth you, and then they'll finish that, then they'll go back to work and be happy, joyous, and free. So she did have a sense of humor, that therapist did, but she helped me with that it wasn't any of my business what those employees talked about. And they could get it off their chest and come back to work and be good employees. So anyway, don't sit around finding things to get your feelings hurt or to get feeling rejected over. And number 5, don't let rejection define you. You may not be, or you might, you could be the very sweetest peach on the tree, the very sweetest one, and beautiful, and the color looks good, and you're just ready to, be picked off of that tree. And guess what? There's going to be somebody that doesn't like peaches. They don't care how good you are and how good you taste and how good you look. If they don't like peaches, they're not going to pick you. So get back up there among the many and know that you are just one among the many. We're not all that special except one person, and that's the God of understanding, and we're all special in His eyes. So Don't take it personal. Do not take it personal. If you're not chosen, if you're the sweetest peach on that tree and you think you're all of that and something else, but you're not chosen for a specific thing, don't take it personal. So, number 6, treat yourself with compassion. When you've really had a blow, I'm kind of making light of rejection. Rejection can be hard. If you've been rejected by a friend, if you've been rejected, you didn't get that job, or maybe you lost a job, rejection. Maybe your life partner wants a divorce. I mean, I'm talking about some major rejection. When you've had some real major rejection, it's okay to just kind of pull off and cocoon for a while. Just take very good care of yourself. And don't beat yourself up by overthinking about the rejection or the situation. Just what I said a while ago, just know that there's going to be a lesson inside this, and there's going to be a solution. There's going to be a solution. And also remember, could be some information that you don't have. We don't always have all the information about a situation. There can be something going on with a person that we don't even know, and that they can't be with us, or that they, whatever, maybe, you're let go, not because, from a job, not because of your abilities or anything. Maybe the business is not doing well. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with you. So, give yourself time to console yourself, but don't stay in it. Get up, get out of yourself, out of the self-pity, put on your big girl panties or your big boy panties or shorts, and, grow yourself up out of this situation. And then grow from the experience. That's number 7. Rejection hurts. It does hurt. And but dwelling on it and on what you did wrong is not going to do you any good. It's not. So learn from the situation, and what you need to learn about is you. What is it inside of you that almost invites people to reject you? Think about that. As an overweight child, an overweight teenager, or overweight young adult, an overweight adult, I don't know if y'all realize that a lot of people in the world do not like overweight people. Or if they do, they have a lot of they don't want to get too close to us when we're overweight, afraid it's catching. And I make this up. I think a lot of people see overweight people as that we don't have much sense, that we're not smart. And so we're judged unmercifully, I believe overweight people are. And not only overweight people, but go back to what I said at first. I think living in the gay community would be one of the hardest things, and you'd have to have really good self-esteem and be able to set healthy boundaries, because there's rejection on all sides. And then back to the color of the skin. Y'all seen on TV, and I don't usually get into any kind of political anything, but I'm going to get political here. That deal in Tennessee, where there was 2 representatives or 2 seniors kicked off. There's 3 of them kicked off because they raised some commotion during the meeting about gun violence and gun control. They reinstated one of the 3, and it was a white woman. And what she said herself, she believed it was the color of the skin. And since then, they have reinstated, one of the African American young men. That is rejection. That is rejection because of the color of your skin. People get rejected because of the size of their body. People get rejected about who, trans people. I mean, you go down the list, they suffer major, major rejection. So for us, just remember as we go through our life, and I believe this is pretty true, a third of the people that we meet, think about this, a third of the people that we meet, they're just not going to like us. There's just going to be something about us they just don't like, a third of the people. I mean, they probably won't say anything about it, but it's just maybe the way we look, or maybe we remind them of someone that they knew. I remind a lot of people of their mothers, particularly people that I work with, particularly family, in family groups. Or because I guess because I'm a woman and I am a mother, but a lot of people, a lot of clients will put their mother's face on me. And so a third of the people are not going to like us. I don't care what we do. A third of the people that we meet probably aren't going to even remember us. They'll think, now, I think I might have met them, but I mean, we're not going to make an impression on a third of the people. Now, a third of the people that we're going to meet, they are going to just like us and eventually just love us. A third of the people that we are around are just going to love and adore us. So who do we give the power to? That third that just love and adore us, oh, we've already got them in our corner. We hardly pay attention to them. But we're over here trying to win over these people who don't want to be around us, or those who don't even remember us. So a lot of this rejection is self-imposed. And so we have to really look and ask ourselves, am I really being rejected, or am I making it up out of my head over some unresolved issues of my past? And if it is, I will tell you, the childhood, it does affect us in our adult life. And if you keep feeling rejection, you might want to go back and do some more inner child work, because in doing the inner child work in our adult life, it's about us not rejecting that part of ourselves, us embracing that inner child, us embracing the person who we are. It is about learning some self-love. We're taught in our society that it's self-centered to love yourself. Well, I'm here to tell you it is not. If you don't love yourself and care about yourself, how can you expect other people to? So, it's not like over the top thinking you're better than other people, but it's about learning to love yourself and accepting yourself as a perfectly imperfect child of God. That's all we all are, perfectly imperfect child of God. And I want to give you another hint. We are fallible human beings, and we're going to let each other down. We are going to let each other down. And so when that happens and you have been let down by someone, back where I said a while ago, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. And I know it's hard when you've been rejected, by, a lover or a friend or on the job. Don't take it personal. Give yourself time to grieve. Give yourself time to lick your wounds. Give yourself time to regroup and take care of yourself. And get up, shake it off, and go forward. Because we live in a world that people are going to reject us. Now, our part too is also looking at, do we reject other people? But ask yourself, do you reject other people? Do you just not like them because of where they came from? Or do you just, so ask yourself that. I've been going to a church, at First Baptist Church. Now, I will tell you, and And this is what I had made up in my brain about the First Baptist Church, because I lived my life in low self-esteem and all of that, and I always thought that I wasn't good enough to go to the First Baptist Church, that was made up of all of those rich people and all of that. I made that stuff up. I made it up out of between my two ears. So I have been attending the First Baptist Church, and you know, they're just people, and I know half of them. I mean, I've people there. I mean, my eye doctor's there, my lawyer's there, my former banker's there, my present banker. I mean, I know more than half the people there. But I had made up that stuff, that those people are better than me. But what I enjoy watching, the First Baptist Church has a mission across the street where they help street people, because the First Baptist Church is downtown. And what I see is how open that church is, and how inviting they are to the people that are street people. And they invite them. I mean, they come into the service, and there's one gentleman and I've only been there 4 or 5 times, but he's been there every time I've been there. And he is very much a street person. He has this long beard, but if you were to just glance up and look at him, you'd think you were looking at Jesus. So you have to be very careful who you judge, because he looks like Jesus. You know, that long hair, and he dresses in loose clothing that almost looks like a robe. And I do think he suffers from some form of mental illness. But I'll tell you, those people at that First Baptist Church, they just love him and welcome him. He'll go sit down on one pew. He'll sit there for a little while, then he'll jump up, he'll go down front and sit, then he'll come back to the middle and back around. And everyone loves and welcomes him. Not only him, but the others that are in that mission across the street. And so I've watched the congregation and thought, I have missed going to that church all these years because I didn't feel good enough. It didn't have anything to do with them. It was me. I didn't feel good enough. So, you know, that's what we have to look at. And always, I don't care what it is, rejection, what it is, it comes back to us. It comes back to our low self-esteem and our boundary failure. And when I was going over this, I thought, this is codependency at the max. Codependency at the max. When we allow ourselves to feel rejected. And so if you do, because you're human and you probably will feel rejected, you know, you walk up to a counter, you've been there longer than anybody. The counter fills up, whether it's Starbucks or wherever it's at. You're waiting to be waited on, and they'll wait on people that came in after you. You know, that's a form of rejection. Don't take it personal. That person waiting behind the counter, you know, maybe they have a sick child at home, or maybe they're not paying attention. We don't know what's going on with another person. But we take it personal and we bring it in and feel bad about ourselves. So the answer to rejection is setting healthy boundaries, having enough self-esteem to do that. And I ask ourselves, is there something about myself that I might need to look at? So that's what I have about rejection. And have any of you ever experienced rejection? If you have, how do you work through it? Have you worked through it? Or maybe you never have. Maybe you've never felt rejection. Well, tell us about that. So who would like to share? Have anybody that has ever felt rejected? Who wants to talk? Don't make me have to call on you.